You want to know how to pick a sweet watermelon? I mean a truly sweet, heavy, dripping down your chin, sugary watermelon that actually tastes like the ones we had 50 years ago? Well, I'm going to give you the honest truth today, folks, because if you're sick and tired of going down to the big box megamart, dropping $8, $10, maybe even $12 of your hard-earned cash on a giant melon, lugging that heavy thing all the way out to your car, wrestling it onto your kitchen counter only to cut it open and find it's pale pink, mealy, and tastes like cardboard soaked in tap water, you're in the exact right place. Welcome back to the Homestead. I'm John. Let's just call it like it is. Things are getting way too expensive. Every time you walk through those sliding glass doors at the grocery store, it feels like the prices have jumped another $1. We are living in a time where folks are struggling to pay their winter heating bills, struggling to keep the lights on, and fighting just to put decent, honest food on the dinner table. And there is nothing, and I mean nothing, more frustrating than spending your hard-earned money on a treat for your family, a nice centerpiece for a Sunday afternoon cookout, just to end up throwing half of it into the compost bin because it tastes absolutely miserable. We don't waste things around here, and we sure don't waste money. Here's the dirty little secret that these massive corporate agricultural conglomerates don't want you to know. They do not care about how your food tastes. They don't. Their entire business model is built around shelf life, logistics, and transportation. Most of the watermelons you see sitting in those giant cardboard bins at the front of the grocery store were grown hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles away. To get their fruit onto a semi-truck, drive it across the country, run it through a distribution warehouse, and finally stack it under those fluorescent supermarket lights without it rotting, they have to pick it early. They deliberately sever that fruit from the vine weeks before it is actually ripe. It is forcibly cut while it is still green and hard on the inside. Why? Because a green, unripe melon is like a bowling ball. It can survive a 1,000-mile truck ride hitting every pothole on the interstate without bruising. But there is a massive biological cost to that corporate convenience. Once a watermelon is cut from the vine, its flavor profile is locked in. It stops producing sugar dead in its tracks. It might soften up a bit as it sits in the store, giving you the illusion of ripening, but it will never, ever get any sweeter than the exact second it was cut from the dirt. You are buying a product that was literally designed for the trucking company, not for your family's dinner table. But it doesn't have to be this way. You don't have to settle for their unripe lies, and you don't have to play a guessing game every time you go to the market. My grandfather didn't have a fancy laboratory or a digital refractometer to measure the brick scale and sugar content of his crops. He was a man who worked the dirt with his own 2 hands, lived off the grid before it was a trend, and knew how to read the signs nature gave him. Today, I'm going to teach you his foolproof traditional methods to pick a guaranteed sweet, juicy melon every single time you go to the store or the farmer's market. No gimmicks, no corporate nonsense, just biology, nature, and the honest truth. All right, let's get right down to it. We are going to look at a few specific things today. These aren't old wives' tales. These are biological facts. The very first thing we need to look at is what I call checking the lifeline. I want you to look right here at the end of the melon. Every piece of fruit on a vine is connected by a stem. Now, from a biological standpoint, you need to think of that vine as the mother plant, and that little curly stem is the umbilical cord. For months, the mother plant pumps water, soil nutrients, and life right through that umbilical cord and into the fruit. That is how the melon grows. Now, nature is incredibly smart, smarter than any corporate farm manager sitting in an air-conditioned office. When a watermelon reaches absolute peak maturity, when it has taken in all the water it can hold and developed all the natural sugars it can muster, the mother plant inherently knows that the job is done. The plant will naturally begin to seal off that umbilical cord. It shuts off the valve. Because of that, the little curly stem attached to the melon will dry up, turn brown, and become brittle. If you're at the store and you pick up a watermelon and that little stem is bright green, or if you look into the crater where the stem used to be and it looks raw, green, and freshly snapped, put it back. Run the other way. That green stem is the ultimate proof that the melon was forcefully separated from the vine way before its time. It was picked prematurely so it could be shipped. But if you find one where that stem is brown, dried up, and looks like a dead twig, you've struck gold. That means the watermelon ripened entirely on the vine, right out there in the dirt, exactly the way God and nature intended. Once you've checked that lifeline, the next step is looking for the sun's signature. Watermelons are heavy. They don't hang in the air from tree branches like apples or peaches. They sit flat on the ground, right in the soil, for their entire growing cycle. The top of the melon gets baked in the hot summer sun, but the bottom, the belly, is resting in the dirt, shaded from the light. This spot right here where it touches the ground is called the field spot. Now, pay close attention, because this is where a basic understanding of botany saves you money. A plant makes its food through photosynthesis, using sunlight to convert water and carbon dioxide into oxygen and energy, specifically starches and sugars. If a corporate farm rushes the process and pulls that melon out of the field early, that field spot on the bottom won't have had time to develop. It will either be non-existent or it will be a very pale, bright white color. A white spot means that melon did not get enough time sitting out in the sun to convert its internal starches into fructose, the natural fruit sugars that give a watermelon its sweet flavor. It's going to taste like a cucumber. You want to scour that bin until you find a melon with an obvious, large, deeply colored field spot. You aren't looking for white, you're looking for a rich, creamy, buttery yellow, a dark yellow belly. That deep yellow color is the undeniable visual proof that this specific melon sat out in the field, basking in the sun for weeks on end, slowly building up a massive reservoir of sugar. Big yellow spot equals a well-ripened, sugary watermelon, pure and simple. Moving right along, we need to do a tactile test. We are going to feel for the cellular breakdown. When you pick up a corporate farmed, prematurely picked watermelon, it is going to feel like a solid block of concrete. There will be absolutely no give to it whatsoever. It's hard as a rock. But let's talk about the chemistry of what happens inside a fruit as it genuinely ripens. Inside this thick rind, the flesh is made up of millions of plant cells held together by a complex carbohydrate called pectin. You folks who make your own jams and jellies know exactly what pectin is. It's the structural glue of the plant world. As a watermelon sits on the vine and reaches true ripeness, that internal pectin begins to naturally break down. The cellular walls relax, they soften, and they release all that trapped water, turning the inside of the melon from a hard, crunchy mass into a soft, juicy, dripping sponge. So, when you are at the market, take your thumbs and press firmly against the skin of the watermelon. I don't want you to try and punch a hole through it, just press with a good steady pressure. If it is too hard and has absolutely no give when you press against the skin, that means the pectin hasn't broken down. It's not ripe at all. But if you press down and you feel just a little bit of flexibility, a slight subtle give under the pressure of your thumbs, that tells you the internal cellular walls have relaxed. The juice is flowing inside. That is a perfectly ripe melon. The last thing we're going to do out in the field is listen to the water. You've probably seen folks doing this in the grocery store, knocking on melons, holding them up to their ears. Most of them have no earthly idea what they are actually listening for. They're just mimicking something they saw their grandpa do. But there is a real acoustic science behind this. Sound waves travel differently through dense, solid objects than they do through liquids. Remember what I just said about the cellular walls breaking down? An unripe watermelon is mostly dense, hard flesh. If you knock on an unripe melon, it's going to give you a dull, flat, high-pitched thud. It sounds exactly like knocking your knuckles against a solid piece of wood or a thick phone book. The sound waves just hit the hard interior and stop dead. But a ripe watermelon? A ripe watermelon is essentially a giant organic water balloon. Over 90% of a fully ripened watermelon is just sugary water. When you tap on a melon that is filled to the brim with liquid juice, the sound waves travel through that water and bounce around the inside of the rind. It creates acoustic resonance. You want to listen for a deep, rich, hollow sound. It should sound like a drum, or like you're knocking on a hollow wooden door. If it sounds deep and hollow, it is packed full of water. If it sounds flat and dense, it doesn't have much water content at all, and you'll be left chewing on dry, fibrous pulp. So, just to bring it all together, you are looking for that brown, dried-up stem. You want a big, creamy yellow spot on the belly. You want just a little bit of give when you press the rind. And when you knock on it, it needs to sing back to you with a deep, hollow echo. You find a melon that meets all those marks, and I guarantee you, you have found a winner. Now, before we take a knife to this beauty and see the harvest proof, it is time for our safety word. You folks who have been following me for a while know that I never, ever skip the safety protocols. We do things the old-fashioned way around here, but we also do them smart, and we do them safe. I want to talk to you about a trap I see people falling into every single day at the grocery store. You walk into the produce section, and right there in the refrigerated cooler, they have those half watermelons and quarter watermelons, all neatly wrapped up in tight cellophane plastic. They look incredibly convenient, don't they? You don't have to carry a heavy whole melon. You don't have to guess if the inside is red. Listen to me closely. Do not buy those. Never ever buy those pre-cut, plastic-wrapped melons. First of all, let's talk about the financial side of it, the frugal independence that we preach here. If you actually look at the price per pound sticker on those pre-cut halves, you are going to see a markup of 200 to 300% compared to buying the exact same whole melon sitting in the cardboard bin 10 feet away. The supermarket is charging you an outrageous premium just because a teenager in the back room took 10 seconds to run a chef's knife through the middle of it. That is a corporate trick designed to drain your wallet in the name of convenience. You have a knife at home. Keep that extra money in your pocket where it belongs. But it's not just about the money. It's about the health and safety of your family. When a supermarket cuts that melon in half and traps it under a layer of unbreathable plastic film, they are creating a perfect, sealed, sugary greenhouse. If that melon sits in the cooler for even a day or two, that trapped moisture and sugar become an absolute breeding ground for dangerous bacteria. I'm talking about listeria and salmonella. The CDC puts out warnings about pre-cut fruit for a reason. You have no idea if the person who cut that melon washed their hands, washed the cutting board, or washed the knife. You are completely surrendering the safety of your food to a corporate chain store. We don't do that. We take control of our own households. That brings me to the absolute most important safety rule of handling a whole watermelon at home. This melon here has a beautiful, tough green rind. But think about where this rind has been. It sat in a muddy field for 3 months. It was exposed to dirt, insects, fertilizer, and potentially animal droppings. It was picked by field workers, tossed into a dusty truck bed, rolled through a massive shipping warehouse, handled by stocking clerks, and touched by half a dozen other customers at the store who picked it up and put it back down. Do not just set this on your kitchen counter and slice into it. Always wash the outside rind of your whole watermelon before you ever let a knife touch it. I don't mean just rinsing it under the tap, either. Take a simple, cheap spray bottle, one of the best tools in a homesteader's arsenal, fill it with half water and half plain white vinegar. Spray down the entire outside of the melon, let it sit for about 2 minutes to let the natural acidity of the vinegar break down the dirt and bacteria, and then wipe it completely clean with a damp cloth or a paper towel. Here's the simple biology of why this is non-negotiable. If you don't wash the dirt and bacteria off the outside rind, what happens when you cut it? The very second the sharp edge of your kitchen knife pierces that dirty outer skin, the blade acts as a transport mechanism. As you push the knife down through the melon, the blade drags all that microscopic field dirt, fertilizer, and bacteria straight from the outside and buries it directly into the sweet, wet meat of the fruit. You just contaminated the exact food you're about to feed your grandchildren. It takes exactly 2 minutes and a few pennies worth of vinegar to wash a rind. It guarantees that when you cut into that fruit, the only thing touching the sweet meat inside is a clean steel blade. Protect your family, protect your gut health, and don't rely on a grocery store to do it for you. Take the power back into your own hands. All right, the rind is completely clean, the vinegar has done its job, and the bacteria is gone. We are ready for the harvest proof. We've checked the brown stem, we found our dark yellow belly, we felt for that slight give in the rind, and we heard the deep, hollow echo of a water-packed fruit. We've done the homework. Now it is time to let the knife do the talking. Now let's put it to the test. When you are cutting a melon this size, please use a proper, heavy knife. I see folks trying to hack through a 20-pound melon with a flimsy little steak knife. A dull or undersized knife is the most dangerous tool in any kitchen because it forces you to push too hard and it can twist in the rind. That is exactly when the blade slips and sends you straight to the emergency room. Keep your guide hand steady, keep your fingers tucked back, let the weight of the blade do the heavy lifting, and slice straight down through the center. Oh, listen to that. Did you hear that crack? That right there is the sound of absolute victory, folks. When a watermelon is truly ripe, when that internal cellular structure is absolutely bursting to the brim with water and sugar pressure, it actually wants to split open. You don't even have to cut all the way through the bottom. The rind just pops naturally under the tension. Take a good long look at that. That is what a real field-ripened watermelon is supposed to look like. Notice the color first. It is not that pale, washed-out, anemic pink you get from the prematurely picked ones sitting in the corporate supermarket bins. It looks really red, deep and rich. And look closely at the texture right here in the center. It's not mealy, and it's not dry and fibrous. You can actually see the structure of the flesh sparkling in the sunlight, and the juice is literally weeping right out of the meat. It's dripping all over my workbench. That means it's absolutely filled with water. And the natural pectin we talked about earlier has completely relaxed. Let's get a piece out of the heart of it. Oh yeah, that is it right there. I tasted a piece of this watermelon, and I'm telling you, it is sugary sweet. It's heavy with water. It's got that perfect crisp crunch, but the sugar just melts in your mouth the second you bite into it. You do not get that kind of complex flavor from a refrigerated shipping truck. You get that from patience, good dirt, and letting a plant finish its natural life cycle. That tastes exactly like the watermelons my grandfather used to pull out of the patch with a pocket knife on a hot July afternoon. Sugary sweet, just like the old days. When you follow the rules of nature, and you don't let a corporation rush the process, nature rewards you with perfection every single time. Now, before I let you go back to your day, you know, I never end a video without giving you a little bit of homework. We don't just sit around watching screens in this community. We take real action and we take back our independence. Your homework for this week is simple, but it's important. I want you to go down to your local farmer's market. Support a local grower if you can. But if you have to go to the corporate grocery store, that is fine too. I want you to walk right past those overpriced plastic-wrapped pre-cut slices, and I want you to use the techniques we learned today. Find that brown, dried-up stem, roll it over and look for that big, dark yellow belly. Give the rind a firm squeeze with your thumbs to feel for that slight give and knock on it until you hear that deep, hollow echo of a water-packed fruit. Buy that whole melon, bring it home, wash the rind with vinegar and water just like we talked about, and cut it yourself. And here is the most important part of your homework. When you cut into it, do not throw those black seeds in the garbage. Remember our motto, we don't waste a thing. Take those seeds, rinse them off, and lay them out flat on a paper towel on your kitchen counter to dry in the sun for a few days. Put them in a little paper envelope, store them in a cool, dark drawer, and save them for next spring. You plant those seeds, and next year, you won't have to pay a single dime to the grocery store for your family's watermelons. That is true independence. Once you do that, I want you to come right back here and leave a comment down below. Tell me how your melon turned out. Did it pass the test? Was it as sweet as you remember from when you were a kid? I want to know. I sit down at this very table with my black coffee every single morning, and I read every single comment you folks leave. You aren't just viewers to me. Welcome to our Frugal family community. We are all in this together, learning the old ways before they are gone for good. And speaking of not wasting a thing, make sure you tune in next week. I'm going to show you exactly why you should never, ever throw your used morning coffee grounds into the trash can. And I'm going to teach you the simple chemistry of how those old grounds can completely save your tomato plants from yellowing and dying off in the midsummer heat. You are not going to want to miss that one. Until then, remember folks, keep your hands in the dirt, keep your hard-earned money right there in your pocket where it belongs, and don't ever let anyone, especially not a big corporation, sell you an unripe lie. I'm John. Stay safe out there, God bless, and I'll see you on the next one.